Hey, welcome to a quick and dirty discussion of rubric number 14, which is on the task 3, the assessment commentary, and this rubric 14 covers question 3 on that commentary. And this comes from the special education at TPA, just in case you weren't aware of that. So what's the guiding question for rubric 14? Basically, what this question is asking you to answer is, how do your supports for the communication skill help the focused learner participate in learning? Now, it's a little bit more complicated. Let me break that down for you. How does it, by the way, relate to other questions? Well, nicely, rubric 14 relates exactly to rubric 4. So in rubric 4, you were asked to plan your supports to aid the student with a communication skill to participate in the learning. And if you executed that, you're basically adding a little bit of extra explanation here and your evidence, and you're good to go. I'm Dr. Von Duke. I'm a professor of education and a certified Pearson portfolio reviewer for the special education portfolio. I've also taught courses at the college level for a range of EdTPA portfolios that students have worked through. I have a 100% pass rate. This channel is a result of my desire to help you with this very ambiguous, difficult task, at this very difficult time in your life, and to hopefully lessen the mental burden of figuring your way through this. And at the end of this, I'll talk to you about some other resources I have should you need them. So basically, for the strategy for rubric 14 is this. To get a score of 2, it's pretty easy. You just describe the communication use that the student used to participate in learning tasks. So it's not what you planned for them to do. This is the communication skill, but like, how did they describe how they use that communication skill to participate in or demonstrate learning. It should align with the learning goal. It might be different from what you said in rubric 4, so maybe what you planned isn't what you actually enacted or the proof that you were able to provide here. It doesn't matter. As long as it's consistent with the learning goal, it's going to be accepted. You don't have to have evidence that the student actually used that communication skill. For a score of 3, however, you're going to provide evidence, whether it's a video or a written form, which I'll go over in a minute. And you're going to explain not only what the communication skill is, but how it allowed them to participate in the learning. So not just describing it, but why was this useful to have this communication skill? How did it add to their learning? For a score of 4, you're going to do 3, plus you're going to also describe how your support for their use of that communication skill helped them to participate. So how it helped them use it, and then that goes back to use it to participate in, to demonstrate learning. And you're going to provide evidence. Again, it can be video and or written. What's not needed, so in the commentary, it asks you to relate this to the student's strengths and needs. And if you've done other rubrics before this, you're probably like hyper vigilant about strengths and needs, but you don't actually have to worry about this here. In fact, you only need one very good example written thoroughly. Of course, a preponderance of evidence, 2 is always better than 1, but if you only have 1, that's going to get you the score, and that is enough, especially if you're short on time and you need to focus yourself. So a score of 5, so in the course I talk about the score of 5, and I give sentence starters for it. In the courses that I offer, I walk you through the commentary, and then I walk you through the official rubric, and then I discuss the differences between the two. I give you the strategy, I give you a draft document, and then I walk you through filling out that draft document and writing it up. For here, the score of 5 is essentially the same type of answer as in rubric 8. So if you go back there, you'll find it's the same thing. So what you need to do is go through your task 2 videos and find places where the student is using the communication skill and mark those. So timestamp that. You can have timestamps up to 5 minutes long. That's not a hard and fast rule. You also need to find from among those places where you provided support for them to use that communication skill. And again, it can be supporting their strength or supporting their need. You don't have to specify that it's a strength or need, but just be aware that if you're scaffolding to something that they're already strong at and building on that, notice that in the video and highlight that. That's your support. And again, you want to pick timestamps up to 5 minutes long. Now, if there isn't anything in your task 2 video files that has that, and you can still snag your student, you can go make an additional video an additional video file, and then you can label it communication use. You need to label it that way, and that can be up to 5 minutes long, and it should fulfill the 2 things that I've specified before. If you have a reader, so if you have a non-reader, then a written evidence, obviously a written communication skill is not likely going to be something that you're going to specify anyway. So you wouldn't specify that for non-reader, and you can't try to make that up because it won't work. But if you have a reader and the communication skill is a written task, then you don't actually have to have a video file. You can label it evidence of use of communication skill, and it can just be just that written task, and maybe it's a graphic organizer where you had them organize the ideas. So that's both your support and them using the communication. Again, you have to explain how that communication helps them achieve the learning goal and how your support helps them achieve the communication. So 2 things for 4. You can also have a written file with a video file. If, for example, on the video, you can see you supporting the students using a communication skill, but you can't see the work that you're writing on, whether it's a worksheet or some other aspect that involves, even if they're talking out loud and it's not a written evidence, but you want to show the reviewer what it is you're working on, or if you're talking, if your support is out loud, but the skill is written evidence, right? So there you have a video of your support, and you have a written text form of their communication use, right? So that's like 2 different things. You want to put that together. And so you would label that file with the timestamp and the video file number on that transcription, or rather that worksheet that you're using. Obviously, you're also going to transcribe. So the places that where you found the evidence, you want to transcribe that as well. So for these first 2. If you don't have evidence of you providing the student with support, and you can't go get that student, you can't create some evidence, then skip it. It's okay to get a 3. It's even okay to get a 2. Although Rubric 14 is a great place to get a 5, because you're only going to talk about where you're going to help them be either self-directed or generalize or maintain that communication skill. So if you have the evidence, you can't, remember that you can't get a 5 if you don't also get a 3 and a 4. So if you have evidence for a 3 and you have evidence for a 4, you can easily write up something that would give you evidence for a 5, and it's great to get a 5 where you can. Then again, make sure you choose 2 or 3 of the best examples you've found, but you really only need to write out 1 of those and transcribe it and go through the 2 levels of how clearly in order to get this. So quick commercial. I know that you are capable of doing the EdTPA and figuring this out. Actually, 72% of people who take the EdTPA do pass it, and the rest fail. And then, of course, there's probably an equal number of people who avoid it because they get overwhelmed by the task. And typically you get overwhelmed, again, as I said before, because you might be student teaching and taking classes, and just life is chaotic and difficult sometimes, and especially when you're new to teaching. That's a very demanding, highly demanding task emotionally and cognitively. So I'm here to help. I have a course that steps you through the commentary and the rubric and how they go together, and then drafting and writing the document, so a little bit more complete than what's here.